The second film that we're looking at is Penguins of Madagascar.
DreamWorks spin-off from the Madagascar trilogy takes us back in time to when three of the eponymous penguins of Madagascar, leader Skipper, Brainy Kowalski, and Wild Rico, first formed their own team after having saved the unassuming private when he was still an egg. Cut to the present, and the penguins are breaking into Fort Knox when they are ambushed by Dave, a vengeful octopus from their past. Dave, voiced by John Malkovich, has devised an evil plan that involves disfiguring all the cute and cuddly penguins in captivity around the world. The penguins escape from Dave and his octominions, only to cross paths with an interspecies task force led by the arrogant grey wolf Classified, voiced by Benedict Cumberbatch. They belong to the North Wind, an organization dedicated to saving helpless animals. But do the penguins need the North Wind's help, or can they stop Dave and save the day all by themselves?
Firstly, Fahad, I think it must be made very clear that this is a very, very awesome film. And the reason why I say awesome is because throughout while we were watching it, all I kept hearing, especially from the female audiences in my theater, was oh, oh, oh. And clearly that's because the penguins are phenomenally cute, and which is also the storyline so far as this film is concerned, the fact that the villain hates them for the fact that they're so cute.
Exactly, and I think this is just such a refreshing animation film. We are in the golden age of animation as far as I'm concerned. This is really taking it to the ultimate level, and often you find in these kind of films you're emotionally manipulated, because whether it's Frozen or The Lion King and all these other films, there is a very willful manipulation of audiences and the awe effect. Here, it's just a zany screwball comedy where logic, reason, all of that has been thrown to the winds. It just reminds me of that wonderful age of my childhood when we watched Looney Tunes and Woody Woodpecker, the Roadrunner, Wile E. Coyote, and this just gave me that because it's non-stop, one thing after the other. And the fact that they use 3D and animation in the way that it should be used.
No, I agree with you, and also I think it needs to be made very clear to viewers that this isn't Madagascar 4, this is Penguins of Madagascar. That's a confusion that I had right before I entered the theater also, because only the 4 characters, those penguins come in from that original franchise. Madagascar 4, in fact, is still being made. It'll come out, I think, sometime in 2015. So yes, it's a fresh film rather than only a franchise movie, which is great to know, and well, I wasn't expecting it to be as great as it turned out.
One of the biggest mistakes that people make is they presume that animated films are only for children. Obviously, this particular film is hugely focused on the target audience, a demographic of 10-year-olds, and the 10-year-old within you, even if you happen to be however old you are. But it's also an extremely clever film. I mean, the opening is an homage to the March of the Penguins, and it actually has the voice of Werner Herzog, a very, very serious filmmaker who has been obsessed with penguins, and they have him voicing one of the film crews that is obsessed with these cute and cuddly penguins. So obviously, from that moment, you realize this is highly intelligent, highly irreverent, and from there, you're just swept along.
Well, yes, and also given that it's animation and you already have these penguins who look as cute as possible, you don't need to do much apparently from the from the production end. But here are these guys, really interested in creating worlds, and just the fact that you could see Rio de Janeiro, you could see Shanghai, you could see New York City tells you one thing, that they're also looking beyond just those animation characters, but also that the sheer audience of this film, as it is for the audience of Hollywood, is across the world, and they're trying their best to get everyone involved in some form or the other. The second, of course, and you've rightly mentioned, Fahad, I think the kind of animation that we're beginning to see, the sound design in itself, even when they munch on those cheeselings, or when they're munching on a rusk, I mean, this sounds so beautiful and so real. I mean, I would rather watch an animation movie than featuring real people sometimes.
It's quite obvious, given how much we've been gushing about how much we enjoyed this film, that it's clearly a dekho. The fact that this film has been made on IMAX and 3D, I think you should really submit yourself with your kids to this experience. Go for it, en famille, and have a blast this weekend itself.
Well, to be very honest with you, would I have seen this film on my own? No. Would I like to see it with a child? Yes. I think the last time I took my niece to a theater, she's about 3 or 4 years old, was Ice Age, the fourth part, and I was particularly bored while she was having fun because, just for the sheer experience of watching that movie. I don't think that rule applies here. I think adults would have fun too. There are so many references to adults, or adult actors in this movie. Let's Nicolas Cage him, let's Drew Barrymore of this, etc., etc. So clearly, while it's going to really appeal to children, it might appeal, or at least it did appeal to me as an adult. It's a theater pe dekho.
There you have it, one Bollywood and one Hollywood review.
All right, guys, that was Friday Double Bill. Do tell us what you thought of the show. Tell us what you thought of the movies. We'll be very happy to get your feedback.